Hi Ben, thank you for your time today. So I think there was one slide where you talk about like web, mobile, and then like maybe bots or maybe chat. I was just want to like perhaps break your brain. You know, like web and apps, they are good for maybe certain things. Like maybe for apps it's like Uber and Maps, and maybe for this web is for like doing work. I'd love to hear your thoughts on maybe for chat and for the bots, what are some use case that you think is good for that? Thank you.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of lenses to think about here. The first is like the basic app versus web question for me is, do you have a relationship with your users such that they're going to want to put your icon on the home screen? And if the answer is yes, then you should have an app. If not, then you should be and the web. And if not, you should just have the web. Like, if you go back 20 years, should a restaurant have a website? Yes. Should a plumber have a website, or should they be listed on Yelp? Well, maybe. Let's think about that. Now, should have a restaurant have an app? Well, unless it's McDonald's, no, because you don't have that kind of relationship. Should it have a website? Yes. And so I think that's sort of my Occam's razor for thinking about sort of an app versus a website, is does the user actually care? Before asking, is there something we want to build that we can only do in the web? The first question is, does the user actually have that relationship that they want to put you on the home screen? I think the second question, as one sort of digs into these specific interaction models, is there's always this tendency to go kind of to pick up the new shiny and to try and build everything with it. And you know, there are certainly some use cases where a map doesn't make sense, like your local restaurant shouldn't have an app. There are some use cases where bots don't make sense. I mean, you can get yourself into a situation where you're basically trying to shop through an IVR, and it doesn't matter how good the AI is at the other end. Like if you called up Banana Republic and said, "Hey, can you tell me what shirt?" And they said, "Hey, would you like to shop over the phone?" It's like, "Yes." Okay, would you like pants, shirts, or sweaters? Like pants. Okay. Do you want jeans or khakis? Okay, and it's like, this is not a good user experience, and it doesn't matter whether you're doing it over the phone, it doesn't matter whether you're building in a bot, it doesn't matter how good your AI is, it's actually better to look at that on the screen and click on or tap on different options. And so I think there's a tendency, as I said, to pick up the new shiny and try and apply it to everything. It's the old joke, if you've only got a hammer, everything looks like a nail. But then I think what one has to do is really dig into what use case actually makes sense there. Now, the key thing for something like WeChat, for Facebook Messenger, for any of these kinds of pathways is that you're thinking, like, can we use social, can we use chat as a way of getting distribution, as a way of getting people to use this service in a more frictionless way without having to install the app, as a way for them to get, to reach the customer service, in a kind of a different channel where you solve some of the pain points of using other channels. And so, like, if you want to ask Amazon where your package is, then Amazon is a great interaction for that. If you want to ask your airline whether the flight's delayed or whether you can change your seat, when you have that kind of narrow use case, these narrow sets of questions that you can ask, I think that works really well. The problem is, it's a joke that was going around, like, what do we want bots? When do we want them? Sorry, bot didn't understand the question. That we don't have HAL 9000. We don't have something that's going to be able to answer any arbitrary question that the user might put into it, which is the problem that Siri ran into, because Apple kind of told everybody that Siri could answer anything you could ask, and of course it couldn't. So everyone just decided it couldn't do anything. So I think there's that question of, like, what does relationship with the customer actually want to have with a service on the one hand, and on the other hand, is there actually a customer journey that you want people to follow that's served better with this model than some other model? They probably won't want to install the app. There's probably a very constrained, simple set of questions. It's going to work really well as a kind of a simple, very quick interaction model. Then those are places where some of these where one thing might work. If you want to build a very rich, deep, interactive experience where somebody's going to spend 20 minutes looking through your product, then a bot's going to be a terrible experience, and you want either a website or an app. And you just have to kind of dig into that empathy, I think.
Any other questions?